hey, you should do a Zoom buyer appointment 8 months ago. And they said, no, I need to do it in person. Now what's everybody doing? They're doing Zoom buyer appointments. What's a 10 to, on a scale of 1 to 10 for him for stress? Maybe a 5 to me. And it's still his 10, right? So there's respect that we have to give in that. Do what you can to be positive and motivated and go out and pivot and go get your business right now, because this is where the opportunity is.
Welcome back to I Buy Real Estate, your free step-by-step guide so you can buy real estate. Today we have a special guest in the building, one of my personal mentors, Patrick Woods. Patrick began his real estate journey back in 2002. He's the owner of multiple Keller Williams Realty franchises and an operating principal at KW Elk Grove, Sacramento. Check this stat out. He was the CEO and team leader of the #1 KW office in the world, both in 2011 and 2012, back-to-back years. That's out of approximately 700 offices worldwide. Not only that, he has personally participated in over 25,000 transactions for over $5 billion. That's what the B in sales volume. Welcome, Patrick.
Hey, Wei, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic, man. How about you?
I'm living the dream.
Love it, love it. So crazy times we're in right now. How's the real estate market in Cali, and are closings still happening?
Absolutely. Closings are still happening. So that's kind of the thing that we look at. The market it's interesting because the amount of deals that are happening are fewer, yet the market is hot in those fewer deals. So for example, our average sales price in the Sacramento area is about $350,000, $375,000. And we're seeing multiple offers on homes that are $700,000, right? So even the high-end stuff is moving really fast if priced right, because there's just a shortage of inventory and people still need to buy and sell houses. We just figured out a different way to do it.
And I know you don't got a crystal ball. I don't got a crystal ball, but do you foresee this continuing with what the virus is doing?
There's a lot of ways to go with that question. So do I see this continuing? As far as the market being slow and stuff like that, as far as less transactions, it depends, because here's the thing. So if you think about this like a restaurant, the business that a restaurant lost yesterday, they will never get back. People will always need a roof over their head, right? And so I'm going to say this with all due respect to the virus and what's going on out there, and I'm going to speak to the business side of this. Life still happens. People still get married, they still have kids, they still get divorced, they still lose a job, they get a new job, which causes the potential for a real estate transaction. So life still happens. People will always need a roof over their head. So even if it's slowed down a little bit right now, my thought is we're just kicking the can down the road, and we're going to see that uptick of the people that were going to buy or sell right now that chose to hold off to kind of see what's going to happen in the market. They're going to pick up and start buying and selling once the dust settles on this. So, and then there's certain things as far as technology that we've integrated into the business. So if we were over here on the pendulum swung over here with technology, the pendulum's never going to go back to here again. We're probably going to be, on this side of the equation. There's some things that will never change that we've picked up here.
Got it. Okay, so here's a crazy stat. Back in 07 and 08 crash, 40% of all agents quit. Do you foresee the same statistics this crash? And what are your thoughts on this?
So do I see the same statistics? To be determined. I do think that there are people that are adapting really quickly, right? And they're jumping in with both feet. Like, think about this. These virtual open houses, right? We're talking real estate sales agent kind of stuff. A virtual open house, and this is technology. How many people did we say, hey, you should do a Zoom buyer appointment with your clients 8 months ago? And they said, no, I need to do it in person. Now what's everybody doing? They're doing Zoom buyer appointments, and nobody's offended. Nobody's feelings are hurt, and everybody's great. And deals are happening over Zoom. Virtual open houses, if we do those and we build a system for those where we can say on average we have 125 people through your open house virtually, versus we can do a traditional old school archaic open house and have 0 people, 2 people, 4 people, 10 people through, we're going to set ourselves apart. So there's a lot of opportunity there. So the thing that I look at on the agent side is, are we going to see a mass exodus of agents? Potentially. I think the reality is the ones that adapt to the market and pivot and reinvent themselves faster are going to go steal market share, which does put the agents that don't at risk. So I remember a while back, we used to say, hey, because of technology, it's not unlikely that we would go from 1.2 million realtors to 500,000. And what's happening right now because of coronavirus, it's forcing people to get into technology, right? And so it's pushing that envelope a lot faster. So I do think we'll see a dropout because some people can't weather the storm because they're sitting on their sofa watching Netflix and saying, oh, poor me, I can't sell a house. Well, other people are saying, I need to sell a house. What do I need to do differently in order to sell a house? And they're figuring it out. So
love it. Interesting. So now, do you think that with the coronavirus dissipating in the near future, you think we're gonna like adapt this virtual showings and virtual open houses? You think that's still gonna happen?
Yeah, I think so. I think what's going to happen is there's going to be people that prove the model, right? And so think about this. They go on, and this is going to be across the board for every business, right? Everybody's figuring out how to be way more technology based. Everybody. I mean, a teacher at my son's school who's never been big on technology is now Zooming to the school children, kindergartners, right, to do their lessons. And she was freaked out saying, this is scary. I don't like doing video. I don't like the way I sound. I'm not good at technology. And she actually emailed the principal and said, do I have to do Zoom? Can I do a pre-recorded video and then something else? And the principal said, no, you have to do a Zoom. And guess what? She did a Zoom, and now she's super proud of herself for doing a Zoom. So there's got to be things that the technology is going to be here for a long time. So the virtual open houses, the way I go with that is, think about this on a listing presentation. If I can go up against another agent and just say, hey, what most agents do are those old school archaic open houses, and we actually have no way to predict how many people are going to come through your house. Could be 0, could be 40. We don't know. We don't know if Saturdays are better than Sundays. We don't know if 11 to 2 is better than 2 to 4. We just don't know. We could do one on 4th of July weekend this year, and then next year it'd be packed, and the next year be a ghost town. We just don't know. What we can do with a virtual is we can actually create a system to predict the amount of hits and views that we're going to get on an open house. And so we can use that data on a listing presentation to set ourselves apart from our competition. Now, what's the reason why we do an open house? We do an open house not to sell the house, because only 1% of homes sell from an open house. And so we do the open house, 1, to make our sellers happy, and 2, to generate leads, right? So if we're getting more people to view the property, are our sellers going to be happy? Absolutely. Then the question is, what are we going to do to generate leads from these virtual open houses? And that's an equation that people are working on figuring out right now. So if you think about this, at one point in history, nobody ever did an open house. And somebody tried it the first time and everybody said, that's crazy, it doesn't work. And then they proved it. And now, because it's been proved over decades, everybody goes, oh, open houses work. So if my first open house wasn't a success, I got to figure out how to make it better, because I know open houses work. Somebody's going to prove virtual open houses, and then they're going to say, I need to get mine better because I know it works because somebody else has done it before. So my whole thought process is, why wait till somebody else proves it? Go out and prove it yourself.
I love it. It just goes back to belief, right? Think about the man that first was the one to accomplish the 4-minute mile. No one thought about you could complete the 4-minute mile until he did it. Now there's countless of people doing it. So it's not what anything changed, is what belief changed, and that's what made everyone adapt to this new technology.
And you think about it, so you have the 4-minute mile, you have the first person to climb Everest, and all these people do it after, and then people say, hey, well, if you can do it, if you can climb Everest, period, and we can all do that, what would it look like to climb without gear, without oxygen, right? So people start pushing the envelope. And so the whole thought process is, if I'm going to position myself, so just in any business, right, and we're talking about real estate here, if I talk to any realtor and they're looking at their database, and I ask them, how many people in your database do you think know more than just you as a real estate agent? What percentage? And most of them will say like 90, 95% of their database at least knows somebody else that sells real estate besides them. And the reality is, if we're not talking to our database in that first position, we're potentially going to lose that business. And so the same is true with the virtual open houses, everything. It doesn't have to be the best. You just have to be first.
Absolutely. Now, I want to transition a little bit, and I want to really dissect your early struggle days. For example, I believe you told me you took over an office with no staff, and the office was poorly run at the time. How were you able to overcome that, and what did you do?
Oh gosh. Well, there's a couple things in there. So before that, I actually owned a .com. right? And so I started .com in 99, raised about $4 million in venture capital. We had a staff of 40 people, and it was awesome on the way up. And then the .com bubble burst, September 11th hit, and everything just kind of imploded. And I ended up laying off my friends, and it was ugly. And so I look back at that going, that was one of the most intense, stressful periods of my life. And then you go forward to that office, that Keller Williams office I ran, and that was in, gosh, I want to say 2008, 2009. So they had ramped up during the heyday of 03, 04, 05 and taken all this lease space, and it kind of overextended themselves financially when the market tanked. So had they not done that, and I understand why they did it, and had they not done it, that office would still be here today. And so I jumped in because I said, hey, if that office fails, that's going to impact all the other franchises around us in the Sacramento area. So I wanted to jump in. And so I jumped in, and there was essentially it was me and our accountant, our controller, right? The person that did the finances. We didn't have somebody to answer the phones at the front desk. Guess who was signing for packages every single day? This guy. Right? We had 125 agents. And so we moved from space to space, moving phone systems on a push cart, $70,000 phone system on a push cart. Not the smartest thing, but when you have no money, you got to figure stuff out. And so here's what I'll tell you on that. So that it didn't have initially a happy ending. We ended up shutting that office down. And so here's the thing to think about. One, we ended up shutting the office down, and this is about, building a culture and raving fans and all that kind of stuff. Out of 125 agents that were part of that office, 122 of them went to another Keller Williams office. They did not leave KW and go to a competitor. So that's the piece that I hang my hat on. The other thing that I look at is, I don't think there was anybody else that was as uniquely qualified to be in that position at that time in our area besides me, because of that .com up and down. Weathering that storm in the .com world prepared me to navigate this new storm of the real estate crash. And because I did that, so this is that right there, when the office has no receptionist, no staff, you're answering the phones, you're signing for, packages arriving, you're trying to hold everything together. That's when most people would quit. They'd throw in the towel and say, this is too tough. Like in real estate, I'd say, I just want to go back and start selling houses, because that's way easier than the stress I'm dealing with right now. And then you fast forward, because I did that, I went and took over another office. I turned that one around during the downturn. And because of being the guy that was in charge to wind this thing down smoothly and to go turn this other one around, that's why I got the opportunity to run that other Keller Williams office that we took to #1 in all of Keller Williams. So had I quit when times were tough, I never would have had this opportunity over here. And so I think that's a big thing that most people, I remember John Maxwell said, yeah, I can teach you how to do what I do, but are you willing to do what I've done? Right. So sometimes when the stuff gets really tough, we've got to figure out a way where there may not feel like there's a way. And it's when we get to the other side of that the true opportunity lies. I mean, we could use all these extreme examples like Elon Musk, right? He sold, I think it was PayPal, right? He sold PayPal off and then reinvested every single dime that he had back into his new company, and was sleeping on sold it for millions of dollars, and he's sleeping on his buddy's sofa because he reinvested every dime. So he was all in. Now that's an extreme scenario. Like, we like to look at the Elon Musk, the Mark Cubans, the Mark Zuckerbergs, and those are the outliers, right? People like you and I, we can build a big empire, and we have to persevere through some of these really challenging times to see the other side. And it builds our mental muscle on how to handle stress too.
Love it. So yeah, and absolutely 100%. I would say once you overcome these hard pressure situations, you're gonna be able to adapt, and it's gonna make you stronger. For someone who's not been in a position and they just get put into these tough times, they're gonna crumble and they're gonna just quit. So it's like diamonds. Diamonds are made under pressure, and I truly believe that 100%.
Well, you don't go to the gym and pick up the 50-pound dumbbell and start doing curls, right? Mm-hmm. You start with the 10s or the 12s, right? And you work your way up to, eventually someday doing 50s, right? And so the same thing is true with your business sense, your ability to manage stress and lead people. We don't all start at here. We've got to work our way up. And everything's relative too. I remember I was in my office one day, and I was running multiple Keller Williams offices, and I got served with papers for a lawsuit for $1 million.
Wow.
My broker of record for all 5 offices turned in his resignation, and something else happened. This happened like within 10 minutes of each other. And one of my friends came into my office. I had a sofa in my office, and he just kind of walked in while I was on the phone talking to somebody. And he sat down on the sofa, and after I got off the phone, I walked over and I sat down next to him. I go, wow, what a day. And he goes, tell me about it. I've been negotiating those requests for repairs, and it's been a nightmare. I'm sitting there going, you knucklehead. I just got served with $1 million lawsuit. I got my broker of record just quit. I've got to go find somebody else and something else crazy. I can't remember. Like, that's how in the moment it seems really stressful and really crazy. And now I can't remember the third one, right? But I'm sitting there going, this knucklehead, he thinks his request for repair negotiation is so stressful. And I just had this. And then I had to realize it's all relative, right? What's a 10 to, on a scale of 1 to 10 for him for stress, maybe a 5 to me, and it's still his 10. Right? So there's respect that we have to give in that. And there's a reason why I'm at a point where I have businesses and all this kind of stuff. It's because you go through that. The bigger challenges that you have, the stronger you're going to be. And the bigger business you have, frankly, the bigger challenges you're going to have.
Absolutely, 100%. So for the people that don't know, I met Patrick in a class where he was teaching how to build your team and how to scale. Mm-hmm. Patrick, do you have any tips and advice on hiring, scaling, for example, your admin, your sales force, etc.?
So here's what I hear a lot is people will hire somebody and it doesn't work out. And they go, you know what? I shouldn't manage people. I'm just not good at it. And if you look back because my world is real estate and it's on the real estate sales side, so we'll pick on that a little bit. If I went on a listing presentation and I didn't get it, would I just say, well, I'm awful at listing presentations. I suck at real estate. I should just quit. No, we say, you know what? I know that this can be done. And so I'm going to get better at it. I'm going to hone my skills. And so I think the biggest challenge people have is that they expect perfection when they hire somebody. Oh, I've hired this person. It's amazing. My world is so much better. I don't need to do anything anymore. And they hire somebody with false expectations. That person hasn't proven themselves in the role. 2, they may not have grown their skill set in managing and hiring and overseeing people. And then they don't train them when they bring them on. They just say, oh, I filled that seat and they're going to start cold calling for me. Now I can go focus on this. And they never train the person to actually cold call. And they never track them and hold them accountable and grow them up, right? And so that's a process. And so we just have to give ourselves a little grace and just know, hey, I'm going to screw this up. And I just need to screw it up a number of times. Just like anything else in life, I've got to make some bad hires so I can get to the good hires. I got to make some poor managing decisions or lack of managing decisions. So I realized that didn't work and now I got to get better. So were you as good on your first listing presentation as you are today? No, right? That's because you've done a ton of them over the course of your career. Same thing's true with hiring. And I think a lot of people assume that I'm going to make a key hire and it's going to just be great right out of the gates. So we got to understand that it's a process just like anything else. And the other thing is having a process to hire people. Because what I see happen a lot is, oh, my neighbor's daughter's home from school and she needs a summer job and I need an admin, right? What ends up happening is you don't talk to your neighbor anymore because you had to fire their daughter, right? Because it wasn't the right fit for the role. And so having a process to make sure that you're finding the right person for the role that you're hiring, because a cold caller is going to be different than a CPA. Those are different behavioral styles, and we want to ferret that out in the hiring process so we know that we're hiring somebody that's not only skilled and talented, but they're talented for that role.
Absolutely. I think what people need to realize is that hiring, just like sales, they're skills. And any skill takes time to develop, takes practice, takes hours and hours of perfecting your craft until you can master it. So just because even myself and even like yourself, when we first started, we probably sucked. But now through the time of how many people I hire, I'm getting a lot better. I have established better interviews, better pre-screening. So I'm able to adapt and learn these skills and improve my craft. And I think that's what a lot of people miss.
Well, they miss that. And I still make bad hires, but I make fewer bad hires than I did 10 years ago, right? It's people. So it's not an exact science. Right. And the other thing that we look at is man, I don't want to fail and I don't want other people to judge me because I failed. Well, the reality is that they're probably not thinking of you that way, right? They're not going, ooh, I can't wait to watch Way fail. Right. And the ones that are probably they won't ever achieve the success that you are because they're too worried about watching you fail than going out and building their own skills. right? So don't worry about what other people think. Be willing to fail like crazy and get better because of it.
Love it. I love that. All right. So talk to me about why you joined Keller Williams and why new agents should join KW versus other brokers.
Obviously, I've been a serial entrepreneur for my entire life. So I've all the way back from having lemonade stands growing up, mowing people's lawns, to in college, I sold t-shirts for St. Patrick's Day and made all kinds of money. And then started my .com, and then decided to sell that off, and then got into commercial real estate. And then when I moved from LA up to Sacramento, that's when I got into residential, and I started with a different brokerage. And I went to this big event that Keller Williams does called Family Reunion. And it was, back then, it was like 6,000 people would go to it. So it wasn't, now there's like 17,000 that go. And so I went to this event, and everybody told me, oh, Keller Williams is their discount, they're this, they don't have the training. And I went to this family reunion, and I was like, holy cow, this is the best training and the coolest people. And they're not just talking about how to do real estate sales, they're talking about how to build a business. And for me, being a serial entrepreneur, that was exactly the language that I spoke. And so I felt really comfortable in this environment because they were talking a language of business and quality of life, not just, hey, here's how you do a great listing presentation. Here's how you do a great open house. Teach you. But literally my old brokerage said, here's your cubicle. There's your phone. Good luck.
Right.
And what Keller Williams was talking about was, okay, how much money do you want to make? Okay, you want to make this much money? Okay, you need to sell this many houses. And they worked it all the way back to here's how many contacts you need to make per day, which gives everybody a sense of purpose. So you're actually thinking about like a business. Do you have a profit and loss statement? Do you have a balance sheet? Do you have a cash flow statement? So they're talking about these kind of things that most companies, they're talking about how do you hire people to your empire, to your world. Most companies don't talk about that. So that was really attractive for me, and the opportunity to build my brand versus most brokerages have evolved since I came over. And it was really about the company brand, whereas Keller Williams is all about, we don't stand in front of our agents, we stand behind them. So the brand was me, which I really loved because I wanted, when people thought of real estate, I didn't want them to think of XYZ brokerage. I didn't want them to think of Keller Williams. I wanted them to think of Patrick Woods, because the more people, when they thought of real estate, thought of Patrick Woods, the more homes I'm going to sell. So the better for my business, right? And so those are big reasons why I joined Keller Williams. And here's what I could tell you. The reason why anybody today would want to join is just flat out, there's nobody like us, right? So you look at Keller Williams. So think about the world that we're in right now, right? We're in shelter in place, global pandemic. The economy is pretty much drawn to a standstill. And if we go back to the foundation, Keller Williams was founded during a recession. And then during the Great Recession, not only did we go from number 4 in market share to number 1 in market share, we actually wrote this book called Shift, right, to conquer that time. And then from there, we went on over the next 10 years, we responded to more natural disasters than any other real estate company. So we kind of built this playbook on how to respond during challenging times, just like today. And about 4 years ago, Gary Keller came out and said, we're no longer a real estate company, we're a technology company, right? So all the things that we've done and experienced over the decades of being around as Keller Williams has uniquely prepared us to be the most prepared for this situation right now, more than any other real estate brokerage out there. So that would be kind of in a nutshell why I think somebody would want to join, because there's nothing like this. Think about it. Imagine if this pandemic hit us 10 years ago when we didn't have Zoom and we didn't have DocuSign, we didn't have FaceTime. It would look a lot worse, right? And so it's kind of a weird blessing that happened today as opposed to 10 years ago. And again, Keller Williams, I don't think there's anybody else positioned better to handle and adapt to this time than Keller Williams.
Right. And just to follow up what you said about how KW teaches you how to build a system, the owner of Keller Williams, Gary Keller, he writes books, guides, step by step, how to become a millionaire agent, how to become a millionaire investor, how to become a landlord. Shift, how to adapt in the market shift. He gives you all these guides and plans, so all you gotta do is go out there and execute. It's not like you gotta go out there and learn it yourself. It's been done before, it's been proven. You just gotta go out there and do it now. So
yep. And so the thing I look at is like, yeah, you could go buy this book and read it no matter what brokerage you're at. And obviously I'm here, so I'm a raving fan, and I wouldn't be here if I didn't believe in it. I don't feel like I'm selling anything. I could go read this book someplace else. I could read The Millionaire Real Estate Agent someplace else. But the bottom line is, that's great that I could read it. So I could read how to ride a bike, or I could go ride a bike, right? And so when I'm at Keller Williams, I'm immersed in this type of conversation on a daily basis.
Love it, love it. So before we end it, Patrick, you got any words or any advice, any words of encouragement for all the viewers out there for these uncertain times?
Sure. I think the biggest thing that we need to remember is that there is an answer. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. This will pass. We don't know when. We just know that it will pass, right? And I saw this on a Simon Sinek video where he said the companies are asking themselves, how do we continue to do our business, or asking the wrong question. And they might not survive this time. The companies are asking, how do we need to reinvent ourselves to survive this crisis? Will be the ones that come out on the other side of that tunnel stronger than they were when they went in. So think about just like the age of the internet coming out. There are companies that doubled down on their pre-internet strategy, and they're not, like Borders Books, not in business anymore. And there are companies that adapted to the internet and are thriving now because of that. So this from a business standpoint, this is not uncommon, and we have to remember that there is an answer, there is an end that will be happening, and just keep focused on that. Do what you can to be positive and motivated, and go out and pivot and go get your business right now, because this is where the opportunity is. When everybody's complaining, poor me, that's where most of the money is made. So go get it.
I love that. That just fired me up. Let's go. All right. So if you were entertained or got value, click the like button and subscribe for more content. If you got any questions to ask Patrick, make sure to comment below and share to help others just like yourself. Thank you, Patrick. What a value. I'll see you again.
Thank you, Wei. Appreciate it, buddy.
Thank you.